I bought a small riverfront cabin in upstate Michigan so I could finally watch the sunrise spill across the water every morning without anyone knocking on my door or needing anything from me. Then my niece called and said, "I'm turning your place into a weekend rental. You can bunk in the little den when there aren't guests. Honestly, Aunt Linda, you should be thankful I'm including you." I didn't argue with her, but when she arrived with her first set of paying visitors, they discovered the surprise I'd been setting up for nearly a month. Before we continue, I'm Maya White, the narrator of your story. On this channel, I bring you powerful life stories, drawn from experiences many of us have lived, and some we may face one day. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe to Profound Stories. We're building a community that believes life doesn't end with a chapter. Sometimes the strongest and most beautiful chapters begin at any age. Now, let's return to the story. The realtor's pen made a soft, dragging sound as she signed the final document. I sat across from her in her Minneapolis office, watching cold rain blur the glass, holding the new keys to something I dreamed about ever since my husband died 3 years earlier. The cabin cost me $412,000. 41 years working as a clinical pharmacist in St. Paul, every midnight shift, every double, every Christmas I'd spent in scrubs instead of at home. All of it distilled into 820 square feet of aging pine wood on a narrow strip of riverfront land. "Congratulations, Miss Hartley," Denise said, nudging the deed toward me. "You picked a beautiful spot. The Osable River is stunning all year." "Thank you." I slid the keys into my purse and shook her hand. My fingers trembled less than I expected. The drive from her office took just under an hour, winding through quiet forest roads until the trees thinned and the river appeared like a silver band ahead. When I pulled into the dirt driveway, I shut off the engine and didn't move. The cabin sat about 60 feet from the water, sheltered by tall oaks with branches that twisted like old arms. A sandhill crane stood in the shallows, poised and deliberate. No traffic, no buzzing electronics, no neighbors arguing through thin walls. I unlocked the cabin and stepped in. The sellers had left it spotless but bare. A single room with a compact kitchen and a stone fireplace. A bedroom just wide enough for a queen bed. A bathroom with a shower that leaned slightly to the left. The windows faced the river, and through them I could see kayakers gliding past in bright jackets. Exactly what I needed. I spent the first week moving in slowly, almost ceremonially. My old townhouse furniture fit perfectly. The leather recliner angled toward where morning sunlight would fall. My books stacked neatly in the built-ins, medical journals I'd never fully read, biographies, 3 novels my husband had adored. The detached shed out back held my gardening tools. My fishing net hung above the door. Everything where it belonged, turning the disorder of change into something steady. By the following Sunday, I had a rhythm. Rise with first light, make coffee, sit on the small deck, watch mist drift off the river. The crane visited most mornings. Trout jumped near the reeds. One afternoon, a pair of bald eagles circled overhead, their shadows sweeping across the grass. I called my brother Mark that night. "I'm here, finally moved in." "Linda, that's wonderful." His voice warmed instantly. "You earned this peace. After everything with Jonathan's illness, it's about time you had quiet." "It's calm," I said, "a kind of calm I forgot existed." "Well, Rachel has been talking about your place. Hasn't stopped, honestly. She's gotten really into real estate. Did I tell you?" Something in his tone tightened the air. "No, you didn't." "Oh yeah, she's researching investment properties nonstop. She and Brooke are ambitious." He chuckled lightly, but it sounded forced. "She wants to drive up sometime, see the place." "She's welcome," I said, though a small internal alarm flickered. "Just have her call first." We chatted another few minutes, then hung up. I sat outside afterwards, watching the river darken. The small alarm kept pulsing, but I told myself it was nothing. Rachel was my niece, Mark's only child, family.
2 weeks later, the phone rang while I was hauling branches to the burn pile. "Aunt Linda, finally caught you." Rachel's voice had that polished confidence she'd picked up in corporate training. "Dad said you're settled in that new cabin." "I am." I set the rake aside and walked toward the porch. "How are you and Brooke?" "Better than ever. Listen, I've been looking at your property online. That's prime waterfront. Do you know what kind of rental revenue a place like that generates?" My grip tightened. Rental revenue. Short-term stays. "Your cabin could bring in $4 to $6 grand a month during peak travel season. More if we update the kitchen. I've crunched the numbers. The return is wild." "Rachel, I bought this place to live in, not to run a business." "Totally, I hear you. But imagine this. We partner. I manage bookings, cleaning, renovations, all of it. You stay here when it's empty. That little den would be perfect for you." Her casual tone winded me. The den of my own home. "It's like owning an investment you get to enjoy," she said. "You'd barely have to lift a finger." "I'm saying no, Rachel." "That's short-sighted," she said, voice cooling. "You're retired, alone. What if you need medical funds? Think on it, okay?" "There's nothing to think on." "We'll revisit this," she said, and hung up. I stared at the river. The crane waded through the reeds, patient and focused. I wished I felt that simple. That night I barely slept, replaying her words. The den would be perfect for you, like I was already a guest in my own house. 3 days later, Mark called. "Linda, Rachel's upset. She said you dismissed her business proposal without even considering it. She wants to turn my cabin into a rental and tuck me into the den when strangers aren't here. How is that a proposal?" "She's trying to help. You know how passionate she gets. She can pursue her passion with properties she buys herself." Silence. "You've changed since moving out there," he said quietly. "You sound sharp." "I sound like someone protecting what took me decades to earn." After we hung up, I pulled out a notebook, old habit from clinical work. Document everything. I wrote down the date of Rachel's call, her exact phrasing, Mark's follow-up. Not because I anticipated trouble, because clarity prevented conflict. The next 2 weeks were peaceful. I thought maybe Rachel had accepted my decision. Then, early one Tuesday, a glossy SUV rolled into my driveway. Rachel and Brooke stepped out. They hadn't called. "Aunt Linda!" Rachel waved like this was a friendly drop-in. "We were nearby, thought we'd visit." Brooke, in designer boots, far too nice for muddy terrain, scanned the cabin with a measuring look. "It's charming, but smaller than the pictures suggested." "What pictures?" "Just the old listing ones. We've been reviewing the layout." Rachel walked straight up to the deck. "Can we come in? We have something important to discuss." I wanted to refuse, but Mark would hear about it, and I'd be painted as unreasonable. 5 minutes, I have errands. Inside, they sat at my kitchen table like consultants closing a deal. Rachel pulled up a spreadsheet. "I've expanded the financial model. Your cabin could gross around $65,000 a year. After operating costs, we'd net $35,000 to $42,000. Split evenly, you'd pocket up to $21,000. I don't want income. I want my home." Brooke leaned forward, gentle but calculated. "Linda, may I speak honestly? You're 64, living alone in a remote spot. What's your plan? These properties need long-term upkeep. They lose value if not fully utilized." Rachel nodded. "This is a solution that helps everyone. We handle the workload, you get money and security." My answer hasn't changed. Rachel's smile vanished. "You're being irrational, Aunt Linda. Dad warned me you'd be stubborn. We're just trying to help you see reality." Brooke rose. "Let's go. She's not ready to be practical." At the doorway, Rachel turned. "Think carefully. You won't get an offer this good again. If you wait, the terms might not be as generous." They left. I called Mark immediately. "Did you tell Rachel I'd be difficult?"
"I said you were attached to the cabin," he answered defensively. "We're both worried. You're isolating yourself." "I'm not isolated. I'm choosing solitude." "Are you?" he asked softly. 3 years since Jonathan passed. You left your old life behind, and now you're pushing away family, trying to help." His words hit harder than I wanted. I had withdrawn after Jonathan's death, but withdrawing wasn't the same as losing touch with reality. "Mark, I'm fine. Please tell Rachel to stop." "I'll try, but consider compromising. Maybe let her rent just during summer. You could stay with me in the city. Goodbye, Mark." I ended the call before he could say anything else. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop open, researching Michigan property statutes, what counted as harassment, what legal remedies owners had when family crossed lines. I took notes in my neat, hospital-trained handwriting, dates, statutes, case examples, each point underlined. 2 weeks later, I was in town picking up groceries when I spotted a flyer taped to the window of a local cafe. Charming riverfront cabin, perfect escape. The picture showed my deck, my view, my oak trees. My stomach dropped. I went inside and asked the barista about it. "Oh yeah," he said. "Some woman paid me $20 to hang that for a month. Said it was her rental." The flyer listed a website. I pulled out my phone and typed it in. The site looked professional. Au Sable River Escape. Book your perfect getaway. Multiple photos of my cabin from different angles. Interior shots taken through the windows. A booking calendar. Nightly rate $300, 2-night minimum. My home turned into a short-term rental without my consent. The contact line showed an email, riversideretreats.rachel@gmail.com. No phone number. 3 reservations were already blocked off, 1 in 2 weeks, 2 more in December. I drove back slowly, forcing myself not to stomp on the gas, even as anger pressed behind my ribs. At the cabin, I walked the perimeter, checking windows and doors. No forced entry, but Rachel had been here more than once. She could have taken the photos during her last visit, or slipped around the property without me noticing another day. I called Denise, my realtor. "I need a property attorney, someone good." "Is everything okay?" she asked. "No, someone's trying to rent my cabin out behind my back." "That's serious. Let me give you Alan Pierce's number. He handles real estate disputes all the time." Pierce's office was in Grayling. I drove there the next morning with my laptop and printed screenshots in a folder. He studied everything carefully, flipping between the pages and the site. "This is fraud, Miss Hartley. Plain and simple. Your niece is advertising and likely collecting payment for lodging at property she doesn't own or manage. We can pursue civil action and refer the matter for criminal investigation. I want to understand exactly what that means before I choose. Civilly, we file for an injunction, demand she shut the operation down immediately, and seek damages for any income she collected or harm she caused. Criminally, we report her to the county sheriff and prosecutor's office. Depending on the amounts involved, this could qualify as felony fraud under Michigan law. How fast can we move? I can draft a cease and desist letter today. The injunction paperwork will take a couple of days. Do both, I said, and I want security cameras here, yesterday. That afternoon, I paid nearly $800 for a security system, 2 cameras on the driveway and deck, 1 facing the back of the cabin. Motion activated, sending clips to cloud storage through a cellular hub. By sunset, the installer had everything online. The next day, Pierce sent the cease and desist by certified mail to Rachel's condo in Minneapolis, outlining the fraudulent website, the bookings, and the consequences if she didn't shut it down within 24 hours and refund all payments. Rachel called at 7 that evening. "You sicked a lawyer on me?" she snapped. "Over a simple misunderstanding?" "Misunderstanding?" I repeated. "You listed my cabin as a vacation rental and took money from people for dates you had no right to offer." "This is ridiculous, Aunt Linda. I'm family."
"We should be working together, not throwing threats around. Pull that letter back. Take down the site, refund everyone. If you don't, I'm filing a criminal complaint with the sheriff. You wouldn't drag your own niece into court. Try me," I said. She hung up. I refreshed the website. Still live. I called Pierce. "She's refusing." "Then we move ahead," he said. "I'll file for the injunction tomorrow and contact the sheriff's office regarding the fraud." That night, my cameras recorded Rachel arriving at 9:30. She walked around the cabin, testing doors and windows, all locked. She stood on the deck, hands jammed in her coat pockets, staring at the dark interior like she couldn't quite believe I was holding my ground. Then she left. I watched the footage over coffee the next morning, studying her expression on the little screen. Angry, affronted, baffled that I'd chosen the law over family pressure. 3 days later, a county detective drove up, Detective Jason Shue, trim, professional, notebook ready. I walked him through the timeline, the calls, my refusals, the website, the bookings, the cease and desist. "Do you know for sure she's taken payment?" he asked. "I can't see her accounts, but there are confirmed reservations on her calendar. The first guests are supposed to arrive tomorrow. And she's been on the property without permission?" I showed him the footage of her nighttime visit. He watched, jaw tightening. "Miss Hartley, I'll be direct. This is fraud. She's running a rental scheme using property she doesn't own, which is a crime. But because she's your relative, I need to be sure. Do you really want to push this criminally? These cases can tear families apart." "She already tore something," I said. "I just want this stopped, whatever that takes." He nodded, jotting in his notebook. "I'll open a case file and speak with the prosecutor. If she shows up tomorrow with guests, call me immediately. Don't confront her." The next evening, just after 6, headlights swept up my drive. Rachel's SUV in front, another car behind. A couple climbed out of the second vehicle, maybe late 30s, weekend bags in hand. I dialed Shue. "They're here." "Stay inside," he said. "I'm on my way." I watched from the darkened living room while Rachel and the couple walked up to the deck. Rachel tried the knob, found it locked, then knocked. "Aunt Linda," she called, her voice carrying through the wood. "It's me. I've got guests checking in." I stayed silent, phone recording in my hand. The knocking grew harder. "Linda, open the door. They paid good money for this." The couple exchanged uncertain glances. The woman said something I couldn't catch. Rachel gestured at the cabin, clearly spinning a story. 15 minutes later, blue lights flashed at the road. Shue's cruiser pulled into the drive. I opened the door as he approached. "Please stay inside," he said quietly. I watched through the window as he spoke with the couple and Rachel. The couple's confusion turned to anger. They got in their car and drove off quickly. Rachel stayed, arguing, her hands cutting the air. Shue handed her documents, the injunction papers and notice of investigation. She scanned them, her face paling, even in the wash of the headlights. Finally, she left. Shue came back to my door. "I've informed her she's under active investigation for fraud. She's been ordered to shut down the rental listing, refund all payments, and have no contact with you outside of legal channels. The guests confirmed they wired her $2,400 for a week. They're furious." "Will she be charged?" "That's up to the prosecutor, but the evidence is strong. Tonight helped your case." After he left, I sat alone at my table. The fire snapped in the wood stove. Outside, the river moved steadily past, indifferent to my drama.
I'd protected my home, but the cost was becoming impossible to ignore. My niece now had a criminal file. Mark would blame me. What little family I had seemed to be splintering. I poured myself a couple of fingers of scotch, something I rarely did, and stepped onto the deck. The November air bit through my sweater, but I welcomed the sting. I thought of Jonathan, of what he would say if he were leaning on the railing beside me.
He'd been level-headed, stubborn in quiet ways. He'd probably tell me I'd done what I had to, but he'd mourn the fallout, too. My phone rang. Mark. I almost let it go, then answered. "You called the police on Rachel?" he demanded. "You're having your own niece investigated?" "She was running a rental scam using my property," I said. "She took money for stays I never agreed to. What was I supposed to do?" "You deal with it as family," he snapped. "You don't drag in detectives and prosecutors and ruin her future." "She ruined things herself. I told her no. She ignored me. She ignored my lawyer. She still brought paying guests here." "She's my daughter, Linda, my only child. You're willing to put her in handcuffs over this?" "I'm willing to defend what I spent 41 years earning. If she ends up in court, it's because of choices she made." "You've turned into someone I barely know," he said coldly. "Jonathan would be ashamed." The words hit like a physical blow, aimed to hurt. "Don't use my dead husband as a weapon," I said. "I'm done with this. Don't call me, don't send Rachel. For now, I don't have a family." He hung up. I stayed out on the cold deck long after the call ended. The scotch lost all flavor. The crane wouldn't stock the shallows until morning. I had finally achieved the solitude I'd chased, and suddenly it weighed more than I'd expected. The weeks that followed crept by. Pierce kept me updated. The judge granted the injunction. Rachel was ordered to pay $11,000 in civil damages for the fraudulent bookings and associated costs. The prosecutor's office was reviewing the criminal file. I built new routines around the waiting: morning coffee on the deck, reading by the stove, afternoons spent repairing whatever time and weather had worn down: the deck railing, cracked caulk, loose shingles. I chopped and stacked firewood until my shoulders ached pleasantly. The labor steadied me when my thoughts tried to spiral. Mark never called. I didn't expect him to. In mid-December, Pierce phoned. "The district attorney has decided to file fraud charges," he said. "Rachel will be arraigned next week. Given the dollar amounts and her lack of prior record, they'll likely offer a plea deal: probation, restitution, maybe a conditional discharge if she complies." "What does that look like for her really?" I asked. "No jail as long as she behaves, a record that may eventually be expunged if she completes probation. She'll owe restitution on top of what the civil court already ordered. I doubt you'll ever see it all, but it will limit her ability to hurt anyone else this way." "I understand," I said. After we hung up, I made a simple dinner and carried my plate to the deck despite the December chill. The river was gunmetal gray, choppy. Snow hovered in the air. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Brooke. Rachel is shattered. You've destroyed her future. Hope you can live with yourself." I deleted it. That night, sleep wouldn't come. Mark's accusation echoed. Would Jonathan be ashamed? I tried to see his face, to imagine his voice. He'd been kind, yes, but he'd also drawn hard lines when people tried to take advantage. He once refused to co-sign a loan for his own brother because it would have sunk us. He believed in kindness with a backbone. He wouldn't have wanted me to roll over, but he also believed in second chances, in doors left unlocked. I got up, turned on the lamp, and opened my email. Not to Rachel, to Mark. My fingers hovered for a moment, then began to type. "I'm sorry this has hurt you. I know you're angry. I love you, and when you're ready to talk, I'll be here, but I won't apologize for protecting my home. Rachel made decisions that brought consequences. That isn't on me. The door is open if you ever want to see the cabin or sit down and talk. Love, Linda." I hit send before I could talk myself out of it and went back to bed. Christmas arrived quietly. I roasted a small turkey breast, made stuffing, ate alone with the lights off and the tree lit in the corner.
On the morning after Christmas, I watched the crane pick its way through the icy shallows. In January, a hard freeze finally glazed the riverbanks. I was reading near the stove when tires crunched on the drive. The camera feed showed Mark's sedan. I opened the door as he climbed out, shoulders hunched against the cold. He looked older than I remembered. "Can I come in?" he asked. "Of course." I made tea while he sat at the same table where Rachel had once displayed her spreadsheet. "She took the plea," he said. 2 years probation, conditional discharge, $25,000 in restitution and court fees. I found out last week that she and Brooke are separating. The stress, the money, the embarrassment, it was too much. I sat across from him. "I'm sorry," I said, and meant it. "Are you?" he asked. "Because this is what you pushed for." "No," I said quietly. "What I wanted was to live here in peace. What I wanted was for Rachel to respect my no. I never wanted courts and detectives." He glanced around the cabin, really seeing it this time, the shelves of books, Jonathan's photo on the mantel, the muted light on the water through the windows. "It is peaceful," he admitted. "Beautiful." "That's why we dreamed about a place like this," I said. "Jonathan and I talked about retiring near water for years." "I don't know if I can forgive you," he said after a moment. "She's my kid." "I understand," I said, "but she was wrong. And I let her be wrong for a long time because I kept making excuses. I kept telling myself she was just enthusiastic, that she'd grow out of it." He wrapped his hands around the mug. "Somewhere along the way, I raised someone who thought this was okay, taking what isn't hers, bending the rules until they break." "You didn't make those choices for her," I said. "You just loved her, maybe a little too softly." We sat in silence. Outside, the crane glided down, landing in the shallows. "That bird comes most mornings," I said. "Keeps me company." Mark watched it hunt for a moment. "Jonathan would have liked this place," he said. "Yes," I replied. "He would have." "He probably would have handled this better than either of us," Mark added, a sad half-smile tugging at his mouth. "Probably," I agreed. He finished his tea and stood. "I should head back. I just needed to see you, make sure you're okay." "I'm all right, tired, sad about how this turned out, but all right." At the door, he paused. "I don't know when or if I'll be ready to bring Rachel here, but would it be okay if I came up again? Not right away, someday." "Anytime. Just call first. I've grown fond of my quiet." He almost smiled. "That sounds like you." After his car disappeared down the road, I returned to my chair by the stove. The crane was still stalking the waterline, patient as ever. I picked up my book but didn't open it, content just to watch the bird and the slow winter light on the river. The cabin was still. Mine, paid for with decades of work and defended over months of exhausting conflict. The price had been steep, family ties strained, maybe broken, but sitting there in the calm I'd fought to keep, I couldn't say I regretted drawing the line. Outside, the crane lunged, came up with a flash of silver, swallowed the fish, then resumed its steady search. I finally opened my book. If this story resonated with you, please tap the like button, subscribe to Profound Stories, and share what you would have done in my place down in the comments. When you're ready for the next story, just click the box on the left.